And in the entire service sector, which deals with pets, pet boarders are the only ones who actually end up spending time with the dog on a 24-hour basis.
Most time.
And we are the second in line after that when it comes to after a pet parent. I think the favorite one out of all of this is we've had a goodnight poem that we've been asked to say to a dog in a sing-along tone. So that there is a recording that the pet parent has sent to us, and we are supposed to tuck the dog in, get that voice note to play for the dog, and only then will she sleep. I mean, a kennel can never be home. Let me be very honest. Just the way a hostel can never be a home. I mean, when we are put into boarding schools, there's a different kind of fun that you have when you're in a hostel environment. But at the same time, you still do want your bed when you go back home. You still want to use your own washroom when you go back home, and you don't want to share it with 5 other people. And that kind of does come in with all of that. But yeah, we can never be a home. And honestly, I don't want to be a home.
We are the kind of people who work, we don't get Diwali breaks, we don't do Ganpati breaks, we don't do Christmas breaks.
In fact, it's
fact, you're
all
all the more
those are the
busy.
busiest times for you.
Yeah.
Those are the busiest times, which is why we're the hotel industry.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to Pet Central. Very excited today to have Ms. Shalaka with us. Shalaka is a very, very well-known pet boarder, trainer, sitter, multiple roles in one, based out of Pune, and we're going to be talking to her about a lot of things. My name is Shobit. I'm the founder of the pack, and I have with me Sagar.
Hi guys, welcome to episode 4. I hope you guys liked the last episode where we talked about traveling with your pets. My name is Sagar. I run this company called Petal, and today we have with us Shalaka Mundra, like Shobit said. And I'd quickly like to introduce Shalaka for you guys. Shalaka has been running PetSitters, her boarding kennel, for 15 years now. They just completed 15 years. They're based in Pune. And how Shalaka got started on this journey was her pup fell sick at some point, I think in 2006. And she started working with the vet then and got introduced to the industry. And that's where the idea came from. She then started PetSitters in 2008, and since then she's worked with over 4,000 dogs across the 15 years that they've been in business. She's also gotten herself certified in various aspects of the pet industry, such as kennel management, basic dog behavior, aggression, with trainers such as Shireen Dhabar and John Rogerson. Today we want to talk to Shalaka about the day in the life of a boarder and what it is really like running a boarding business. A lot of us as pet parents have, I think most of us as pet parents have at some point or the other used the services of a boarder. But how much do we really know beyond or what lies beyond the gate or the reception at which we drop off our pets and then pick them back up? There's a lot that goes on, and there's a lot of hard work, physical work, and challenging behavior to deal with. And today Shalaka is here to talk to us about that. So let's dive right in. Let's get started. Hi Shalaka, pleasure to have you here.
Hi guys, Sagar, hi Shobit. Finally, it's good to get in person with you guys, literally. Okay, so yes, how is it that you want me to go about? As a pet boarder?
As a pet boarder, sure.
Well, let me put it this way, as a pet boarder. Like you rightly said, it's been almost 15 years now. Starting from 6 to 42 kennels is what we do. So on a busy day or on a rush hour, we are looking at somewhere close to about 50 dogs, because now with the number of, a lot of families are now coming in with 2 pets or 3 pets per family. So your typical Diwali or Dussehra or Christmas, we are dealing with something close to about 50-55 pets on any given day. So what exactly does it entail for us? Schedules. Days start early. Days start as early as 6:30. Winters it starts at about 7, but summers start at about 6:30. What helps me, of course, run this setup is, of course, a fab team that I have. So, the handling staff, the managing staff, everybody needs to be kind of in sync, and it's not something that happens typically in the morning. It's something that gets planned at least 24 hours in advance in terms of who's going to be coming in the next day, who's going to be going out the next day. what are the check-in and check-out times that we're going to be following for these dogs, because then accordingly we need to plan out for their meals. So that means that we need to be prepped for their meals. So I know that there are going to be 30 dogs who are going to be eating, let's say, the first meal of the day. There are going to be 28 dogs who are going to be eating the second meal of the day, and let's say there are going to be 20 dogs who are going to be eating the third meal of that day, assuming there's no new check-in that's happening. So there's of course a lot of planning that goes in terms of the kitchen aspect of it. So that's one of the very large setups that kind of run and deal with us on a day-to-day basis. Then when it comes to a normal working day, we start off with the usual walks. I think our first and primary thing that we do tell our pet parents is that I do understand that your pet is used to a good, let's say, a 30, 40, 45-minute walk, because that's the only pet that you are walking, right, when you're at home. But when we're dealing at a pet border, that's not the kind of interaction we'll be able to give as the first walk. So the morning walk typically is just a quick release pee and poop walk, so that the dog doesn't dirty the kennel. And the earlier we start and the quicker we kind of get this done, what happens for us at the back end is the dog doesn't dirty the kennel, which means cleaning up the kennel then becomes an easier job, right? So every handler is out there. Typically, the ratio that we follow is about 5 dogs to one handler is the typical ratio that we follow.
Okay.
On Barring, of course, I'm looking at, like, the peak season, which is the Christmas and the Diwali. It can go up to about 8 dogs per handler. But the idea again is to try and take each one out at one time, because if there's like 3 4 dogs who are let out at one time, sometimes it becomes difficult, if like, in terms of we don't know who's peed, who's pooped, if at all there are loose motions or anything which relates to a slightly unwell dog, it becomes a little difficult to keep track at that level. So we do try 95% of the times that it's one dog, one handler at one time. So even if, like, so it's like a quick release, rush. And those are the times that we don't. So till the time that happens, we don't allow any check-ins, because if there's a dog who's checking in at that point in time, it's just general chaos
It's not a
that
great
happens in the
sign.
morning.
Sure.
So morning walks typically go for about an hour and a half, till the time everybody's out there walked. If there is a particular dog who's not done his morning rituals during that time, then the dog is gotten out again. Again, looking at the perspective that cleaning up the kennel is actually a harder job than getting the dog out of the kennel, honestly.
Yeah.
So, and then sometimes then the dog tends to play around with it, in which case the dog also needs to be washed up right after that. So, morning walks are for about an hour and a half, followed by meals, of course. Now, the meal prints is something that goes to, so there's one person at the kennel who typically manages the meals, because one person is responsible for making sure that the handling out can be done by different handlers, but the preparation is done by one person itself. So currently we use DogSpot ready to meal, so that's kind of made our life a lot more easier at this point in time, because it's like, ready to eat food, but comes with the goodness of home cooked. So that's helping us over the last 2 years to kind of manage the quality and the quantity of food. And then there are meal charts which are prepared, which are ready in the kitchen, like I said, about 12 hours prior to the actual meals, and the meals are doled out. Then by about 9:30, 10, there is a full-fledged report that comes in terms of whether the dogs have eaten, not eaten, eaten less. If it's anything 50% and less, it's definitely kept aside to be dealt with later, before lunchtime. If it's anything more than that, it's something that we kind of take a call on. Um, how comfortable the dog is in the setup. Is it the dog's first time that they've come in, which is why, like, sometimes it's uh, the pure chaos of other dogs barking, which is why a dog doesn't eat a meal. So it's I mean, like, so there's little eaten, but something is left behind. So eventually we know that the dog will eventually eat, as long as he's not leaving his food entirely. So based on, so that kind of forms the main line for the day for me, because then we need to figure out whether this dog needs to be exercised more, whether this dog needs a little more playtime, whether if he's been eating his night meals, then do I need to kind of up the night meals from a quantity perspective, to be able to, like, and then go slightly lower on the morning meal. um, and by about 10:30 to 12 ke beech mein, there is an entire update that goes to the families, especially for dogs who are coming in for the first time, slightly stressed out pets. So there is a protocol in terms of WhatsApp groups are made with most family members. So it's like, one message that goes out mentioning where exactly has your pet been in the food front of it.
Sure.
Most communication does go to the point where once the dog starts eating properly, we stop giving food updates. So that kind of takes one load off us. So like, you'll only hear from me if there's a problem. You don't otherwise hear from me, honestly, apart from the baby pictures and photographs. So once that is done and that kind of sets the tune for the day, we are looking, of course, at upset stomachs. We're looking at probably acidity vomits. We are looking at all of that also in the morning, and motion quality, right? I mean, that is the first and final step for all of us who work with pets, even as pet parents. Honestly, if you focus a little more on what kind of motions your dog is following, you do get a sense of whether your pet is healthy, unhealthy. Spectrum can be very wide, but the point is it does give you the first level indication. So then the exercise routines are planned. So from 10:30 in the morning till 6:30 in the evening, every pet has a schedule. Whether he's going to be coming out with another pet, whether he's going to be swimming. I do have an agility ground, so some of the high energy dogs will get onto the agility ground because we try and work them from a problem solving mechanism. It kind of like, sometimes we initiate food while we are working with these dogs. So just in case the dog's not had his morning kibble, morning food,
Interesting.
then I have an option of basically feeding the dog through the day to make sure that the nutrition aspect is taken care of. So 10:30 to 6:30. So then there is so the morning, once the cleaning and everything is done, there is an entire different handling staff that I work with. I do have a lot of interns who work with me pretty much through the year. So dogs are then set out to different handlers based on capabilities, based on problem issues. So let's say the ones who are slightly tending towards the behavior problems, like they're little, let's say, reactive to a leash, or not very comfortable with, like, all kinds of body touch. Those dogs are given to the senior handlers. Yeah.
Got it.
Those dogs are given to the more experienced handler or at the kennel, primarily because if at all there's an SOS situation, these guys are already tuned into how is it that we'll be able to work around it. Um, the main aspect, photographs, videos, updates, which need to get to the pet parents. This is when they typically happen. So typically a dog will come out of the kennel every 2.5 hours, even if it means it's for a small pee or a poop walk. So as we know, I run a boarding kennel, which means that every pet has his or her own individual kennel that is allocated to the dog. It's not a common boarding space. So a lot of pet parents do come in with the sense ki, will my dog settle into a kennel? He's obvious. I mean, most dogs are free in the house. Don't really come in with any restrictions. Don't really have, like, boundary setups and things like that. And our whole goal will be to make sure that a lot of nice things happen while the dog is inside the kennel. So the kennel then becomes a happy resting space, but not an activity space. So, like, so we will make sure that there'll be sit down games that happen in the kennel. Grooming will happen in the kennel. Um High value food items will be given in the kennel, and these are things which actually get lined up when we say that we are making a schedule for the dog. So what is it that each dog needs? And when I say every 2.5 hours, it ranges from the smallest of puppies. For us, the minimum age is 4 months, to the oldest of the dogs. So even if it's a senior dog who's boarding with us, that dog will also come out every 2.5 hours, because I want some mobility, I want some movement, because the place is large enough to be able to. So I do have sniff zones. I do have different surfaces where dogs come out for. So sniffing is another thing that we give a lot of importance to. So sniffing has come up in a very large way, even in the Indian markets today. I do know of a lot of trainers who talk about it purely from a mental exhaustion point of view. I do have a rabbit cage, so sometimes we let the dogs in and around the rabbit cage because that's again mental stimulation. Not inside the. My rabbits are desensitized to dog barking, so, like, they're kind of
Okay.
adept to how to deal with barking dogs most often than not. So sometimes it's just about mental exhaustion and not just physical exhaustion. The young adults will come in for a lot more play. We have a hill slope behind, so dogs go up for a walk on the hill. They'll do their runs, they'll do their fetch rounds. Long lead walks is something that we manage. So typically a 10:30 to 6 is very customized. So when you walk into my place and you say, so what is it that my dog will do? Your dog can actually do sniff walks, play rounds, swimming, agility, um, board games, tracking lines. We do a lot of tracking lines for our pets where we actually lay out food and we get the dogs to basically initiate. So this entire and sometimes he's actually just spending time with us in office because they're just not getting comfortable with the kennel. So
Sure.
there'll be days when one of the dogs is sitting with the team for lunch, purely from an understanding that they just need some white noise, right? I mean, you're just used to family being around for lunch, and somebody just wants to sit under the dining table for lunch, and if that's what it
Right.
requires, we will be doing that as well. So once I've seen your pet, or any of my senior team members has seen your pet, is when we actually decide ki, what is it that we'll do. But the primary line will go from the aspect that we will do what your dog is comfortable with. So a lot of pet parents will come to us saying, will you get my dog to swim, or will you get my dog to meet other dogs? Yes, I can definitely try. I'll definitely try. I'll give it a shot. We'll definitely attempt it, but not at the cost of stressing the pet out more.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah. So if the pet is willingly going to waddle in the pool, I'll be more than happy to do it. Like this summer, we've had almost 6 dogs who've never entered water, but summers makes it possible. And once they've entered water, they've not wanted to
You
come
don't
out
really.
of water. So, like, and from the likes of Rotties to Labs to a Shih Tzu who entered water a couple of weeks back. So it's not really about which pet can do what. It's about what exposure we can give the dog to an extent that it becomes happy, it becomes positive, and it's not something which is forced upon the dog. Um, and that's how the routines kind of set in. Now again, there is a very long meeting that happens somewhere between 5 and 6 in the evening with the senior team members. The main person who's basically doling out food, the main handler who's responsible for making sure that all the dogs have been um, adequately played, if not extensively. And then we kind of take a call in terms of, is there anything that we noticed different? It could be a limp, it could be
Sure.
loose motions again because of excessive treats. Because sometimes we tend to, like, while we think we are being nice by overfeeding, but it's actually taking a toll on the stomach for the dog, and he's not taking it very well sometimes.
Sure.
So we kind of do it's again, like, everybody comes together, so we try and do an offline meet at that point in time, just in case everybody is not available. It is a again a very, and each dog at that point in time is discussed. So it's 40 dogs, each name is taken to be able to, like, tick off saying, okay, fine, okay, fine, okay, fine, or this is what everybody noticed during such times. And then again, the pattern for the next 12 hours is set. If I need to change a meal, if I need to reduce, let's say, sometimes the playtime, because what happens in a kennel is, how much ever little we do, we are always doing more than what a home environment does,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
Because it's overstimulating. Sometimes a kennel can get extremely overstimulating because there's just a lot of dogs to sniff around. There's a lot of barking typically at meal times that happens, and that tends to overstimulate the dog as well. If there's a female on heat, we're dealing with more male dog. I mean, the female on heat kind of takes care of herself. It's the male dogs that we are then looking at. So there could be a possibility that a dog has skipped a meal, but then if I know he's at a health front, he's okay, hydration levels are on point, then we just, like, then we are okay for the dog to skip a meal. We won't fuss over it. Yes, the intimations are done to the pet parents in terms of, these are the reasons why your dog is not eaten. And again, till the time that the dog starts eating properly, the updates will keep going in. So um, what takes up most part of our day is, as a kennel boarder, is schedules, actually, like, the idea, whole idea of planning, especially when you're running at this level. So on an average, on a regular day, it's somewhere close to 25 to 30 dogs is what we are looking with. Some might be the regulars, some might be new. We are doing trial stays every now and then for dogs who are going to be coming to stay with us further up, and that's how it largely goes. But a lot of transparency within the heads of each department, which is dog handling, meals, um, client handling issues, even the logistics and the stock management, because if at all we need to stock ourselves up on something which is going to be critical for a particular season. For example, right now it is stomach medication, summers.
Okay.
A lot of dogs go through loose motions very, very easily in summer. So, are we stocked up on whatever basic first aid is to deal with 2 months so that we are not doing any last minute running around? Um, and then of course if there is a dog who's kind of gone into a slightly overdrive of medical emergency, then the way you have those hospital charts where an individual paper is made to be able to tick off meal 1, meal 2, meal 3, meal 4, medication, motions, play, activity, hydration, because these are my 5 main points that I'm dealing with. So all the 5 department heads need to be in sync with each other. So there is a very large there's a lot of communication that goes through WhatsApp groups, so that everybody puts the data on a central place at this point in time, so that everybody is aware of what's happening,
Right.
in spite of the fact that somebody else might be looking at a particular department on a particular day. So I think that's what it primarily looks for
So
us.
how,
That's
just to make it a
Yeah.
little bit more tangible to people who are watching, how many hours does this take you in a day? And when does
Like,
it start? When does it end?
it starts at 6 in the morning, ends at 9:30 in the night. Yeah. So schedules are given out. People get breaks through the day. We are the kind of people who work. We don't get Diwali breaks. We don't do Ganpati breaks. We don't do Christmas breaks.
In fact, it's the
in
Uh,
fact you're
opposite,
all the
right?
more
Those are the
busy.
busiest times for you.
Yeah.
those are the busiest ones,
Yeah,
which is why we're the hotel industry,
yeah.
right? So we are the
I
hotel
was
industry.
actually I
So if
was
you're
just
holidaying,
going to draw. Yeah, I was just going to draw that parallel, and with just to do a quick summary of everything that you said that you do, and maybe we can have a list put up here on the video. You start with waking your dogs up, or your day starts with, let's
they
say,
wake us up.
as a
They
walk.
wake
They
us
wake
up,
you up.
and then we just service them for them. Yeah.
Correct. So it starts as a walker. You're playing the role of one, then a walker, and while you're doing that, you're also keeping an eye out for the emotions, if there's anything good, bad, whatever's going on. So that maybe it doubles up as a nurse slash doctor or medical observer. Then you're preparing meals and feeding them. So there's nutritionists, chef, and service staff in that matter. Then there's a bunch of other. Of course, there's a lot of admin and business work also that goes on to keep these wheels running, right?
Yes.
So then there's the management aspect and team of it. There's then you're doing a bunch of communication. You're doing to the pet parent, right? There are these updates going out, and see, while I as a pet parent perhaps might think, "हाँ ठीक है ना, मेरे को she's sending me an update. It's fine. She's told me if my dog is eaten or not. It
Yeah.
takes a minute to go to my phone and do it. But along with everything else you're doing this for 40 dogs, right? And
Yes.
it's not the same generic update. It's a different update for each dog.
Yeah.
It's not type
It's
a
a
message
different
out once
update.
and then send it out to 40 people. Right, and then it's the same
Yeah.
with photos and videos that you take. I mean, you're sending just to apply, like Shobit said, tangible concept to this, right? As pet parents, I mean, I am number one to get anxious if I don't receive the daily video from my boarder, right? And I will unashamedly text him कि sir आज video आप भेजा नहीं. Can you please send me the
Yeah.
video? Right, and you need to be in that place where, I mean, it's exhausting work. What all of what you've said is exhausting work. But then at 8:30, if someone tells
I
you I
think
won't
more
have my
than,
video,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah, you
So we
you
try and
will want
do
yeah.
the client communication bit by 6:30. I think WhatsApp kind of helps. The WhatsApp groups kind of help. So initially, I mean, before the kennel was this large, and like it started off at 6 and then 12. Till the time it was 12, it was still kind of single-handedly managing. But over a period, as we've grown, I've realized that that's something that does take a very large toll. I mean, it
Thinking.
has given us sleepless nights. I think I can speak this for borders across.
I'm just gonna. All right. So now that we've listed out the various things that you or the average boarder does, I'd like to know from you, Shalaka, which one or two things are the most challenging parts of your job?
I think there's a challenging part on both aspects, the dog side and sometimes even the human side. The first and foremost from the dog side is one, to be able to assess the pet who's walking in to stay in our setup, to be able to align what is it that the pet requires and where is it that we can fulfill the gap, because obviously the pet is staying away from home and we are doing an extra bit to make sure that the pet settles into an environment like ours. So, like I said, out of the host of activities, whether the dog even needs an activity or no, I mean, it's not necessarily that it has to be an activity prone stay, but sometimes it's just to be able to do all that it takes to be able to work alongside the pet, to be able to make the stay stress free. So that's the challenging aspect. So that's where the study of training and behavior, dog body language kind of plays a very important role as a part of a kennel boarder, because you've got to be able to understand what your dog is saying to you, to be able to work alongside the dog who's the who we are servicing in the first place. The second one is to be able to match the expectations of the pet parent, um, in terms of what is it that they want us to do, from the pet's perspective, or what they call the pet's perspective. So it could be right from like the standard FAQs that come in through is like, do you think the pet will be able to sleep with one of the handlers because he's not used to sleeping alone at night? Or do you think you'll be able to hand feed? Do you think, like, what are the kind of updates? And, like, will you be able to send us X number of updates through the day? And those are the ones that some are difficult. I won't say sometimes they are. Some of these expectations are difficult to match up to, and for that reason, it's necessary that we set out our own rules. We explain those rules. It's not like we set out those rules and we don't tell the pet parent what is it that you will expect from us as a part of a service agreement policy, and tell them why is it that we do it. So I think it's a little unfair that we don't explain ourselves as well. Yes, we do need to explain, because every pet parent, as you mentioned, is going to be coming in with a certain anxious mind, especially when it's the first few stays, right? The first 2 stays or 3 stays, till the time there is a relationship that gets formed between the pet parent and the pet boarder, because all of us are working for the good of the dog, the pet parents as well as us. And in the entire service sector, which deals with pets, be it the groomer, the walker, the vet, the handler, the nutritionist, pet boarders are the only ones who actually end up spending time with the dog on a 24-hour basis.
Most time.
And we are the second in line after that when it comes to after a pet parent. We are the only ones in the entire lineup who kind of deal with the whole day of a dog, just in a similar manner as a pet parent does.
Correct.
So some of the requests are funny, if I may say, not weird. But yeah, to be able to work alongside that, and to be able to make sure that we say our no's when it's necessary, so that we don't end up giving the pet parent a false expectation of what's going to come their way. And that can become challenging. It takes a while for us to get that fine balance, to be able to say that, okay, fine, we've achieved this. Yeah.
Makes sense. Very interesting. And
Yeah.
Shalaka, if you feel like it, do you want to tell us a couple of examples of? Look, I know I'm a pet parent myself, and that's why I can get away with saying this, that we can be unreasonable at times, right? Me saying it is absolutely fine. What are
I hope
some
your pet
perhaps
boarder is listening to this as
unreasonable
well right now.
demands or instances or anecdotes that you want to talk about? And this section is, and I'll tell you why I'm specifically asking for this. So this section will have two different meanings to two different kinds of audiences, right? To the pet parents, it's kind of a message in terms of, look, there's also, and we listed out, right? You're not just someone who keeps their dogs when they're traveling. You are chef, nutritionist, management person, nurse, doctor, all of those things, right, to their pet. So it's also educational in that this is what you do, and it's great to be reasonable, because there has to be there's a lot of hard work, and which demands a lot of dignity to what you do as well, right? Uh,
Yes.
that's one end. For the boarders who are watching, boarders and groomers, I think this is just relatable content, right? In terms of, oh yes, I've also gone through exactly what you're talking about.
Yes.
So would
Yes.
love to hear a couple of things if you can, Chalak.
So, a couple of years back, we had this pet parent who would work in the call center, and his timings were, I think he would work from 2 in the morning to like 5 in the evening or something like that, right? So, I mean, that person's night was 5 p.m. to 1 a.m. was like, the his rest time. So, which meant that the dog was walked at 1 a.m. and which we were asked whether it would be possible, because my dog only poops at 12:30 to 1 a.m. and he doesn't do it otherwise. So that's probably one of the nicer ones, if I may say so. Some of the things that come to us saying is my dog will only drink from his or her own water bowl. And so we insist on leaving that particular water bowl back. And that's honestly is a logistical challenge for us, because all steel bowls after a point in time look like all other steel bowls for us. And we've lost a few, and we've exchanged one dog's bowl to the other dog bowls, and they've kind of like houses have been exchanged, and then pet parents have come back to us saying, "Ki, this is not our steel bowl," and I'm like, I have no idea where yours is. So we're trying to kind of, I mean, these are some of the easier, nicer ones, but some of the more difficult ones have been where every time my dog pees, we wipe the dog with a disinfectant wipe, because this dog is on the sofa, and not just her paws, all body parts are wiped, and that's not something we can do, honestly. I mean, like, you're also looking at a dog, you're also looking at a dog who does you're also looking at an animal who does self grooming. I mean, they don't like being dirty. Cats take it to a different level, but dogs are also not animals per se who like to keep themselves dirty. So these are some of the things that come in, apart from the smaller ones, which are my dog will only eat when he's hand fed. I think the favorite one out of all of this is we've had a good night poem that we've been asked to say to a dog in a sing along. In a sing along tone. So that there is a recording that the pet parent has sent to us, and we are supposed to tuck the dog in, get that voice note to play for the dog, and only then will she sleep.
This is
And here I'm thinking that maybe not. If I just exercise her well enough, she'll sleep. Yeah. And honestly, I mean, not to diss anybody or not to kind of like, take these requests lightly, but what we do, I mean, initially, earlier stages, I'll be very frank, it's appalled me. Like, I'm like, what? I mean, this is what you need to do. And then over a period, we've realized, where does it come from? I mean, I'm a pet parent myself. I still remember the first time my pet stayed in my own kennel, and I'm calling up the handler saying, "Khana khaya dono ne?" And like, that's when you realize where it's coming from. So it's my kennel, my setup, my team, my dogs, my everything. But I'm still calling up to say, "Ki khana to kha liya na?" Like, it's just a feel good answer at the end of it, and I'm really hoping that the boys say yes. So yeah, so it does kind of like I said, it does come up with a lot of funny things. But where we do understand where it comes from, where we do try and explain as to why is it that we can't do it. What is it that we are looking at? We are looking at making sure that your pet is, the primary ones are happy, healthy, safe, hygienic, right? These are my 4 points that I'm talking. So we are looking at realistic expectations, but I do understand if you don't come with those. But I think my job is done that as a repeat customer, you get to that point. And my job is to get on to a repeat customer. So I will explain it the first time, the second time, the third time, to be not just me, my entire team is trained to deal with questions which come our way, which sound unreasonable or unrealistic to a certain extent.
That's quite interesting, Shalaka. I mean, from what I am able to gather from this conversation is that what we see of what the borders do and what actually happens at the borders, there's a huge difference, right? Like we are seeing the tip of the iceberg, but the iceberg below is probably larger than the one that sunk the Titanic. So, for a lot of people who are looking at this as a career option in the future, a lot of people are interested in working with dogs and making a career out of it and becoming a boarder or maybe a trainer. You have the right amount of expertise and the right amount of sort of history to probably guide them. And you also talked about the number of interns that you have in your team and just the various capacities that your team serves, right? What are the main tips that you would
Yeah.
give to upcoming boarders? What should they be really thoughtful of and what should they prepare with?
I think the one is, like you said, is the tip of the iceberg that you see. So that's like, the happy marriages kind of a thing. Yeah. But there's a lot of work that goes on. What Instagram shows you, I mean, what most social media at this point in time shows you, yes, we're playing with dogs. Yes, we're bathing them. Yes, we're all smiling. But I think what it takes, honestly, is a lot of physical toll at the end of the day. So I think my starting line to most people who are looking at entering the industry is one, is it to say that you love pets? But it's a completely different thing to say that you want to work with pets. Any pet for that matter, whether it's dogs, cats, whatever you're looking at doing. It's a physical job. It's an out and out physical job. So whether you're working in an indoor kennel or an outdoor kennel, irrespective, it's still a physical job. So you need to be able to tune yourselves into that kind of putting in that kind of a physical labor. That's probably the starting point of it. So physical fitness is something that you really need to look at. The second thing that I always recommend is try and see if you can get yourselves attached to any organization which works with animals on like, one-on-one or a two-on-one basis where you actually get to handle dogs primarily. Because pet boarding is also where you're not dealing with your own pets, you're dealing with other people's pets, so which puts a lot more responsibility on a lot of fronts. Like we say, we're dealing with livestock at the end of the day, so you've got to be well versed with first aid, you got to be well versed with what kind of medical emergencies, you got to be well versed with how to deal with those medical emergencies, not just at a logistical level, but even at an emotional level. To be able to work with a certain level of not certain level, only the only level to work is being transparent, because there's a lot of trust that these pet parents are putting in you per se as a face of an organization or you as a team. I mean, I've heard it initially when I increased my team size. I've heard pet parents come to me and saying, Shalaka, if you're so I have a protocol. So if I'm traveling and if there's a booking that comes into play, I will inform my pet parent that I'm traveling. I find it, I think I'm morally bound to it because these pet parents have been keeping their pets because of me. And now there is a team that I have who's handling. And in the initial stages, when I was just about expanding my team, I've had pet parents say, "Okay, we'll change our dates." And honestly, that's a lot of pressure sometimes. Like, it's a fab. I mean, it's one of the finest testimonials that I can get. But it also adds to a lot of pressure when it comes on to that. Like, you are the next person who is kind of responsible for this life that somebody is entrusting on you. And training yourselves to be adept to what is it that the dog wants. I mean, all of us here, right? It's the animals don't speak, blah blah blah. But all the pet professionals you hear that they do speak. It's just that you got to be able to figure out what. So then, understanding the body language, which means training yourselves, educating yourselves to get to that level, and continuing to do that is what plays a very primary role. Like, I mean, when I did my trainer behavior course, the whole idea was to be able to understand how do I identify a stressed out dog? How do I identify that this dog doesn't like it over here? How is it? And by then I was 2 bites old because and I didn't want to get bitten in the process. Like I remember Shireen, who's my trainer, tell me at that point in time, don't ever be proud of a bite. Don't ever be proud of a dog bite because you've obviously done something wrong, for which the dog decided to. Well, sorry for that. The dog decided to slap you in return, right? And I don't want to get slapped.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah? Oscar, ikde ye. You want to go
Quite
out?
interesting.
Okay,
Always,
one second. No, he needs to be
always
like.
on the job, right?
Yeah. No, but then you
Yeah,
need to
I
board. You
guess
can't be
that's how
barking.
busy boarders are. Like while on a podcast, you're still on the job.
Yeah.
You just have to shut a dog up for barking, even if it's your own.
Right.
So I think that's where every pet. I think in all of this, I think there are two things. One, attach yourselves to a pet professional before you actually jump into working with dogs, and if you're looking at taking it up as a full time profession. And the second one is educate yourself. Educate yourselves because. There are lots out there who are entrusting their baby slash pet dog in your care with a very serious assumption that you'll be as good as them. And what I think you need to aim for is to try and be better than them because you're the professional. You're not just a pet parent.
Great advice for
Yeah.
That's
somebody who's
actually
coming
very
up.
well put.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was honestly going to think, Shalaka, that you were going to say it's really not possible to give the dog the experience that they get at home. But what you said was you go
Aim.
beyond that. You do
Yeah.
better.
Aim higher.
You can't. I mean, a kennel can never be home. Let me be very honest. Just the way a hostel can never be a home. I mean, like, when we are put into boarding schools, there's a different kind of fun that you have when you're in a
Yeah.
hostel environment. But at the same time, you still do want your bed when you go back home. You still want to use your own washroom when you go back home, and you don't want to share it with five other people. And that kind of does come in with all of that. But yeah, we can never be a home. And honestly, I don't want to be a home, right? I want to be a short term caretaker,
Makes sense.
just as the way you go out on a holiday. Your dog comes over here, they have their own holiday, he or she has their own holiday, they get to do things on a daily basis, which is why I have pet parents who define me as a
Yeah.
resort.
Yeah.
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 That's quite a lovely way to put it, Shalaka. But thank you so much for joining us. I think this was a great chat. So much to
Absolutely.
learn, so much to
Thank you.
absorb from you as an experienced person in the field. We'll be putting all the details below. So if you want to get in touch with Shalaka, please do check out our captions. Uh,
Absolutely.
her place is based in Pune, and it's one of the finest places that you will find for your own dogs to go and stay in. Um, Thank you so much for doing this, Shalaka. Um,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much,
Thanks
guys.
a lot, Shalaka. It's been a
It's my
pleasure.
first podcast, if I may add to that, the first podcast that I'm
And this
recording.
is
So yeah, I'm
this has
also
been
quite
quite the
excited
debut.
about it.
Then we have to say this has been quite the debut. No, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here, and I think this is just adding to what Shobit said. I think this is very good fodder for or very good information for everyone in the industry, right? Or in the ecosystem, not the industry. So pet parents can really benefit from knowing a lot of what Shalaka said because this was, like you said, iceberg, black box, call it whatever. Beyond the reception gate, after I leave my pet, I don't know what's happening. I mean, the only thing I know is okay, my pet's being taken care of, but how well and what effort goes into and what scale at which this is happening. I'm sure, Shobit, you and I have talked about this. It's exhausting to take care of one pet, right?
Yeah,
Cleaning up and taking them down 4 times a day and prepping 3 meals a day. Orders are doing it for 20, 30, 40 pets. So that,
In fact, there's somewhere that I read that I mean, you think cats have made you slaves? Now imagine the extent to which dogs have actually made you into
exactly.
a
And
slave.
we don't even
I mean,
complain.
cats are just so bad.
Dogs have done it in a way
I
that we
mean,
don't complain. We're like, ये तो बच्चा है मेरा.
exactly.
Lovely. I think
here's my
that's a
master.
great yeah, that's a great kind of way to tie in and end the episode. Thank you for watching, and we'll come back very soon
Thank you.
with the next episode on the Pet Central podcast. Sorry. Have a great day ahead.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Actually,
Thank
bye.
you. Bye bye.